There's a gem of a program in Austin that, has underachieved for a while. When they're legit, the sport is better. And they've made a lot of changes the last decade or so since Mac Brown tried to find their footing. And they may have finally gotten their guy. Steve Sarkisian, newly minted head coach for the Longhorns, is with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio. First, Coach, congrats on the championship and congrats on the hire. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. It's been a big week, but excited about the opportunity.
No, you have to be, Coach. And I've been fortunate enough to call a couple of the games from national radio down in Alabama, so I've seen in person the product that you're able to produce on the field. And I wonder, 3 or 4 years you were down there with Coach Saban at Alabama. There was a stint, obviously, with the Atlanta Falcons as the offensive coordinator. When this Texas job was presented to you, how quickly did you jump at it? And did you think the opportunity would come again after what happened out at USC?
Well, I think I did, and I think there's probably a little backdrop to it. When things ended at SC, I didn't know if I'd get another opportunity. So I just kind of went back to work. I just kind of tried to focus on day to day and being the best version of me, the best coach I could be, whether that was at Alabama or the Falcons or back at Alabama. And it was probably a couple years ago when some opportunities started to present themselves to me at different places. And I just kind of said, no, that's not the right one. And no, that's not the right one. And quickly realized I'm probably going to get another shot, but if I do, I want to make sure it's at a great place. And so when Chris Delconte called regarding this job here at Texas and just did a little, had to do a little due diligence on it, I jumped at it. You just don't say no to a place like this with the national brand, the iconic rich history and tradition of this place, and obviously the resources and support. So jumped at it, both feet in, and it's obviously worked out.
Coach, there's been some successful coaches there that went there and couldn't quite get it done. We all know about Tom Herman, and before that, it was Charlie Strong. What's the biggest challenge that you see, just from your initial look at it, the research, the backstories that you were just talking about? What's the initial challenge that you're going to have making Texas again?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing is it's just like anything is recruiting, right? And, one of the key components to this university that is, long been standing and whenever Texas has been great is the best players in the state of Texas come to the University of Texas. And I think that's going to be one of the key components for us is keeping the best players in state home. And that can happen a lot of different ways. Clearly, you've got to have a great relationship with the Texas high school coaches. We've got to do a great job in our evaluation process, and then we've got to do a good job of creating and developing really good relationships with the recruits and their parents. But I think that's probably the biggest key component to all of this. You can't lose 7 players to Alabama and 3 or 4 players to Ohio State and another 4 or 5 to A&M. The top players in the state of Texas, need to put on the burnt orange and white.
Steve Sarkisian, new head coach of the Longhorns, is with us here on Tiki and Tierney, CBS Sports Radio, CBS Sports Network. So, you mentioned all of the things in the right side of the column which would inspire you to take this job. You're right. Texas calls you take the job. Best budget in college sports, rated, rabid fan base. I mean, it's just a beautiful part of the country. The talent at the high school level. The one thing, though, Coach, and I'm curious how you navigated this from your end as you collected information about this job. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. With Alabama, there's one boss. Nobody gets in Saban's way. When Urban Meyer was doing his thing with the Buckeyes, nobody gets in his way. It feels like, and that's how the programs have to be. Pete Carroll back in the day, USC, they stay out of their way. And I feel like one of the things that's kind of sideswiped Texas football for a while is that there's too many voices and they're not all on the same page. Was that a concern for you? And did you get assurances that will change?
No, for me, the biggest key is that people understand our philosophy, people understand our approach, people understand how we're going to go about our business, whether it's on the field, off the field, in recruiting, and that they respect the way that we go about it. And I think when people get on the same page is when you really have a clear, concise plan of action. You have a clear, concise style of play that you want to play with. You have a clear, concise recruiting and evaluation plan of the types of players you want to bring in. That is what, in my opinion, gets people on the same page. And when you reference a Pete Carroll or a Nick Saban, two gentlemen that I was fortunate enough to work with who are mentors of mine, they went about it very different ways, right? They're different people. They have a different approach to it, but their approach was theirs, and it was very clear to anybody who crossed them or came across them that this was the way we were going to go about it. And so I think maybe that minimized some of the outside opinions, or maybe just got people on board with this is how we're going to do it and this is how we're going to win. And then I think made things a lot easier.
Okay, so you have the press conference, and it universally accepted. Most people who know the sport, given your offensive prowess and how you can modernize things, maybe with or at least play a style that modernized might not be the right word, but what you're
appealing to young kids.
Yeah, and Sark, what you're bringing to the table offensively it's a given, right? So it was universally revered by most people when you were hired. The one story that came out, and we certainly want to ask you about this, your comments about the eyes of Texas. Now, you were very definitive there, a source of pride for the school. It's the school song for those who missed it. That's one of the things that Steve said at the press conference. But there was also a lot of backlash, and on a lot of levels here, Steve, understandably so, from the players last summer. You obviously weren't there for that, but my concern is for you, because I'm rooting for you, is that you spoke for the room without conferring with the room. How do you navigate this moving forward? I don't know if they want to sing that song, your players.
I'm assuming your room, you're referring to the team.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think this. I think our players, and one of the key components to this is, I'm a big relationship guy, and for those of you that know me and or don't, I'm very authentic. I'm very upfront. I'm very real. We will have really candid conversations with our players. And we'll get into a room, and they'll have a voice. I'll have a voice, and this won't be the only issue that comes up for us. Mm-hmm. But when all those discussions are done, we'll be a unified team in whatever issue that comes up, positive and or negative, whatever those things may be. And the reality of it is, when you can operate like that, and not everybody's going to agree with everything that we do. But the point of it is that we do it as a team. We support one another. And when we can do that, then we're going to get through anything that's in front of us. And I think that's what great teams do. It's not a group of individuals. It's a team. And that's the approach we'll have, whether it's the eyes of Texas or any other issue that comes out.
So Steve, just to be clear, and I appreciate your candor there. We're talking to Steve Sarkisian, new head coach of the Texas Longhorns here on Tiki and Tierney. That hard conversation, amongst others, we're in a very volatile place right now, society. A lot of issues to discuss, as you know. When you have this discussion with your team, it seems like you're amenable to not singing the song if that's what's communicated by the majority. Do I have that right?
No, I think we're going to express to them why we think it is important to sing the song, and whether that's bringing in an Earl Campbell or a Vince Young or a Ricky Williams, a lot of the greats who have sang that song as well, and why they support singing that song. I think there's going to be a lot of dialogue. I don't think this is a one-voice conversation. I think there's going to be dialogue why it is important for us to sing that song, and we'll get to a point to where we're all on common ground and what we want to do.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it, Coach, because Brian Jones, who's a colleague of ours, obviously a Texas alum, he feels strongly about it, positively. So I'm sure that you'll work that out. It's one of the many things you'll have to navigate. The big question, I think, for any Texas fan, they want to know, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but how quickly do you get this team, playing at the level like we saw in your previous stops, and especially with Alabama? What's the process of bringing in the talent? Is it the quarterback that you need? We know that how smart and attuned Tua was. Mac Jones was just as good, not even better, of operating your offense. What is it going to take, and how quickly is this going to happen, Coach?
Well, I think one thing that naturally happens anytime somebody takes over a new job is I think you can neglect your current roster, and then clearly we do not want to do that. I think we've got a talented young roster here at Texas. This team was 7-3 a year ago. They lost 3 really gut-wrenching games. I think a 4 overtime game to Oklahoma, a tight loss to TCU, maybe with a fumble inside the 5 with a couple minutes to go, and a late missed field goal against Iowa State. Or this team maybe is in the college football playoff discussion. So I don't know how far we have to go. I'll have to figure that out when we get with our team. But clearly we've got a winnable roster now. Now we got to continue to try to enhance it with recruiting and starting to get the player profiles by position to fit what we want to do schematically as we move forward. But I do think we've got a roster here in place that's going to win a lot of football games, and then we're going to recruit really well to the players and the needs that we have with the new coaching staff coming in that's going to fit schematically what we want to do moving forward.
Hey, Coach, let me be real. Are you feeling pressure? I mean, this is Texas, man. Are you feeling it already? Even though you probably haven't even stepped on campus yet. Are you feeling it?
Quite frankly, no. I've been through enough of my life. I've had to walk into the Coliseum and call games. I've called NFL playoff games. I've called national championship football games. So I recognize the volume and the enormity of a job like Texas. But I also know if you focus on that, you're missing the things that are right in front of you, which are probably the most important things on a daily basis. And so my perspective has definitely shifted probably over the last 5 or 6 years to focus on the task at hand and not be result-oriented. You keep looking at, are we going to win, are we going to win, are we going to win? Well, you're probably losing today. So let's just focus on winning today and start stacking wins by days, and then we'll get the end result at the end of the day.
And by the way, T, you ask if he's got pressure. The guy just got paid $1 gazillion. He's got pressure is when there's no food on the table. Pressure.
A good point. Very good point.
You kidding me? Pressure.
Hey, Coach, before we let you go, I got to back up just to your Alabama season. I called 3 games of your Alabama. One that you actually filled in as the head coach when Coach Saban had COVID. And, I mean, I don't want to say it. I don't want you to say this, but it looked easy for you guys, especially offensively. How special, and I heard Mac Jones say it after the game, but how special was this Alabama team? Because, I mean, it felt like whatever you wanted to do, you were doing every single series.
Well, we had a very special group offensively. We had a lot of veteran leadership on that offense. We had a lot of guys who decided to come back for their senior season, whether it was a Devontae Smith, a Najee Harris, an Alex Leatherwood, a Landon Dickerson. So we had that veteran leadership. Obviously, Mac was a fourth-year player, so he'd been around the program, and I thought they did a really nice job of having maturity, showing leadership through a difficult season for everybody. We never really got off kiltered, and they were great leaders for our younger players. And then ultimately, I thought our coaches on offense did a heck of a job putting together game plans every week and instilling confidence in our guys. And I thought our team played very confidently, regardless of the situations we were in. If we had to have a score, it was the first drive of a half. I mean, I thought our guys just played with a lot of confidence and belief.
Coach, we're late, and you've been generous with your time, so we have to bounce. But congrats on the new job. Congrats on the championship, and we're looking forward to watching what you build out there in Austin. Thanks a lot, Steve. We appreciate it, buddy.
All righty, guys. Thank you.
You got it. Yeah, no, that was good. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.